What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring you incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is a coach, facilitator, a farrier, which we'll get into, a self-defense instructor, and founder and director of Horse Sense North. Please welcome Carmen Theobald. Carmen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Deanna. I'm super happy to be here.
I'm super happy to have you here because your story is very I would say, it's kind of heart-wrenching, but it's also very inspirational. And it brings a lot of value to people that may have gone through some trauma. So you weren't always on the path of, I'm assuming, self-defense instructor, farrier, right? All those things. And, there was a reason why you started your company. So can you please share with the audience? I know, but we're going to let her tell you guys what you kind of transpired in your life that put you on this path of helping people kind of heal through horses.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Montreal, and I actually wanted to be a veterinarian for many years. I let that path go because I felt like I was going to be like an animal trapped in a cage to be in school that much longer. That had a lot to do with my family home. The thought of being at home in school in that environment, I just felt like I did have a panic attack.
Okay.
So I totally switched gears and I went into an education stream that was shorter. So I went into social services and I loved it. I was studying to be in some kind of profession of service and helping other people. I was learning so much about myself, learning about others, and it was very validating and giving me language to talk about things. It was great. While I was there at Dawson College, and for your listeners, this part of the story can be very activating, so please take care.
Yeah.
There was a school shooting that took place. And I truly believed that I was going to die.
Mm.
I'm grateful that I wasn't in the heart of the worst of it.
Yeah.
I should have been, by all accounts of the way that the day was laid out. My class that was precisely timed, to the minute, was a 6-hour class, and we're supposed to have our lunch break exactly at that time when it would have started to happen, where I would have been in the very center of it all.
Wow.
We decided to put one more extra presentation before lunch and extend our lunch break time. And that saved me in a lot of ways, but that it also made me then have to hide in a classroom when it did all get started for 45 minutes.
Yeah. Which
listening as the shooter. Yeah. We heard him getting closer and closer to where we were. We heard everything going on. And I didn't know if I'll say I didn't know if that was going to be my last day, but there was part of me that actually kind of did believe it in that moment.
Sure.
And so we had go ahead.
Were there quite a few people that got shot?
Yeah, there were 18.
Yeah. Now, the shooter, was it someone that went to school there or just a random person?
No. And I don't really want to talk about his story too much.
Okay. Yeah, no. I'm just kind of setting the tone because that's a big thing to go through. And, I want people to understand how serious it was, because when they hear, I was just hiding in a classroom, they might not realize how incredibly traumatic and serious that could be being in that situation. So to know that it wasn't from someone from that school, 18 people, that's a big deal, And I think even in Canada, I don't know if there's a lot. I know here in the US, we have quite a few mass shootings in schools, things like that. But Canada, it's I've been to Canada and people are so nice there and just you never would think. I don't know. I don't follow the news there, but is that pretty odd for where you're at?
It's certainly less common by a long shot.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But
I didn't even think of that. But thank you for bringing some levity to the conversation.
But we're living in a really fractured world, and that includes this country, that includes everywhere in different ways. It looks different everywhere, but it's in different ways. And there have been things like that have come up and are continuing to happen. So I'm very, very grateful that day a group of police officers stuck into my class and silently escorted me and my classmates to a position of safety.
Wow.
I absolutely would not be here had it not been for them and for the other brave officers who dealt with the situation and really minimized how many other people could have gotten shot or killed.
Wow.
So when I got outside and I felt that moment of sunshine on my face and I had that big breath and it really landed in my body that I was alive.
Yeah.
Everything changed.
I bet. How did, I can't even imagine. I think that, we think in our minds, if that ever happened to us, we would react this way, we'd be like this. But I don't think that we truly know how we would respond or what would happen after the event to us, mentally and emotionally. I know that there's things now that still trigger me from my childhood, and just stuff that I've had to work through, even today. And it's just something like that and how serious that was. How was that after? What did that look like for you after that event?
Well, I don't want to minimize the trauma or the struggle in it, but I also want to highlight that my experience was really privileged for a couple of reasons. One, I was in a social services program. Yeah. So when we got back to school, I had phenomenal teachers who helped us process and have excellent, high-quality discussions and releasing a lot of that stuff through healthy conversation, where we really were together and our experience. And, we had people who had actual skill in mental health to support us as well as their own experience. A lot of students went back to class where their teachers, of course, no fault of their own, because it's not their responsibility. They don't understand what to do. They were also victims in that situation.
Yeah.
And survivors. They were like, you good? We're good? Okay, moving on. Right? So there's not a lot like that processing, because they couldn't handle it if they were really over the top in their own emotion and experience. Sure. That's all they could offer. Right? Yeah. And then there was everything in between. So I just really recognize what a privileged position I was in to be in that particular program during that time.
Yeah.
And also for me, we talk a lot about post-traumatic stress. We don't talk as much about post-traumatic growth.
Oh, I like that.
And for me, that's really how I would describe the bulk of my experience. Because what happened for me when I realized I was actually alive is that it gave me this permission and this courage to live my life in a way that I hadn't felt brave enough to before. Yeah. Wow. And at first that started by saying no more often. At first that started by maybe choosing a different way of spending my time in little moments, but those choices matter. And it evolved into, by the end of that year, or that school year, I should say, where my friend at the time, my now husband, asked if I wanted to go traveling across Canada and just leave school and leave the city and go be closer to nature, which we'd been talking about a lot, but kind of in this, romanticized, wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, right.
But when he actually asked, do I want to do it? Had he asked that question a year earlier, there would be no way I would have said yes. I really deeply value education. I felt very obliged to do a certain kind of degree before making any other choices. I was 18. I had just become legally able to make decisions that way, never mind really thinking of enforcing those decisions for myself. But when he asked after that horrific event, and I'd had some of that muscle building, if you will, of really courageously being in my authentic space, I thought about it for a minute and I said, yeah, let's do it.
Amazing. That's exciting. And so what happened after that? Did you go back to school?
No, I left school. I quit school. I finished my semester barely.
That was enough of a life lesson. Going through all that. You got all the skills you need now, girl. You're good. I'm just kidding, but you know what I mean.
I do, yeah. Well, and it was just really important that I honored what was happening in my heart, and that I gave myself permission to really take ownership of my life. Yeah. To live life on my own terms. And that, for me, and this again is in no way putting down education or degrees or anything like that, but for me at the time, it meant getting out of Dodge, getting out of the city, getting out of the school, getting out of everything that I was doing in my life. And I went to volunteer on a farm in exchange for room and board.
Wow. Cool. Good for you.
Yeah, thanks. So we were there for 2 weeks, we thought.
Yeah.
We only signed up to be there 2 weeks, and we're going to go across Canada doing this program. And I ended up being there almost 2 years.
Oh, wow. You really liked it there, huh?
Well, I did and I didn't. There was a lot of problems there too. But there were vegetable gardens and maple syrup production. And the real pièce de résistance, there were 24 horses.
Oh, yeah.
So from day one, I was completely enamored.
Yeah. Have you never been around a horse before?
I'd been around horses a handful of times growing up, but I grew up really in the heart of the city. So I, had a moment during the summer break where I was at a cottage and there was something nearby and I got a chance to be on a horse, or, other little individual moments where I really knew nothing about them. I loved them, but I really didn't understand them other than just finding them amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so being thrown into a farm life where it was really mostly about their care and working with horses that were very young and, to be honest, quite dangerous at this particular farm, not just because they were young, but they were really badly handled. The owner of this farm was very burnt out. And people like myself were the main ones handling these young horses. People like myself who knew nothing about horses. So these young horses were learning that we were like their little play toys. Yeah. And they were truly just actually seeking a sense of safety and security, but not getting it. So they're like, well, I guess I'm in charge, which made them that much more dangerous.
Yeah.
So it was really a school of hard knocks there for many reasons. And yet I was immersed in horse life. And so I was completely taken. And it's like they were strengthening that muscle that I was talking about, that muscle of authenticity, that muscle of really turning up the volume on that little voice inside and turning down the volume on all the pressures and all the doubts and all the expectations and the masks and the labels and all the things.
All the things. Hi, guys. This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. I'm here to share another exciting partnership with you. I have joined forces with doTERRA. They are the leading provider of high-quality essential oils. I've got some here I like to consume, the ones that are consumable. So like sweet orange is really great. I also really, really love their toothpaste. Natural whitening, and just kind of really helps clean your mouth. We do carry a lot of germs in our mouth, but I've loved this toothpaste. I've ordered it many times. These are some supplements. Here is the Lifelong Vitality Pack. Really great products, high quality products. Definitely recommend it. I also really love the collagen. NMN is a proven anti-aging product. So the collagen and the NMN together is a real game changer. I'm big into collagen. I believe it. I've been taking it for like 20 years before it's even gotten so popular. And that's probably why I maintain my skin elasticity, my hair and nails. I highly recommend checking out doTERRA if you're a fan of high quality essential oils. Not all essential oils are created the same. Go click the links in the description, sign up, or take advantage of one of my bundles that I'm recommending to you with the toothpaste, also the cleaning products and the supplements. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you, and stay tuned for more to come. Yeah, horses are beautiful and complex animals, I feel like. My sister lives on a farm. They have one horse that they have to keep by himself because he would run the other horses to death. So, he's alpha, right? And then they've got a couple horses on their other farm. And so whenever I go out there, I help with the chores and I help with taking care of the horses. And just, they require a lot of care. And, they are definitely very individual type of beings. Would you agree?
100%. Just like humans, right?
Yeah,
each
for sure.
individual is their own unique being with personality, temperament, experience, their own traumatic histories. So they all have their own unique needs, and also the same needs as us as far as foundational pieces of wanting to be seen, heard, not just wanting to be seen, but needing to be seen and heard and understood, and to feel safe and to feel connected. Just like us.
My mom used to always draw horses when I was little, and she would always say that they're very spiritual. And, I always was intrigued by that. And I think maybe that's why I was drawn to riding horses, in my early 20s. And I did that for quite a few years. And I could see that spiritual connection with them, and I think that's probably why my sister's horse, the crazy one, really likes me. He'll come by and he's an interesting character. But is that where you learn how to be a farrier? And let's tell people what a farrier is, because I never heard that word before, crazy enough, but yeah.
For sure. So a farrier, sometimes called a blacksmith, is a person who takes care of horses' hooves professionally. So kind of like medical pedicures, but beyond just trimming nails, which is part of it. Sometimes that's all they get, but also there might be other supports offered. So maybe horseshoes, whether they be metal or plastic or rubber or other kinds of materials to support their foot and treat their feet. Because horses, they're big animals on these one single digits on each limb, and there's a lot riding on that. So there's an expression with horses, no foot, no horse. So they really need a lot of hoof care. And so I'm kind of like a doctor for horses that without the letters behind my name, specializes in hooves.
Yeah.
And I love that because it kind of brought me back full circle to my passion of wanting to be a veterinarian for so many years of my young life. I just never knew that this job even existed. So when this time at the farm volunteering, I ended up getting offered an apprenticeship from the farrier who was taking care of the horses there.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was always working with this one young horse. That's a kind of little sidebar story, but this horse's name is Contessa. She's really...
I love the name.
Right? I love the name too, but also really lived up to it, and that's not always the best thing, right? So
No. I get it.
I adored her. I was completely in love with her. She was the first horse that I really connected with in that way. She taught me so much. We were more like bickering sisters than like any kind of healthy leadership relationship or anything like that. But I didn't know what I was doing. So she was such a great introduction for me into a really deeper level of what it means to be with horses. And it was through working with her and trying to hold her for the farrier, which she really did not enjoy, that I got to know this person, and he offered me the apprenticeship later on.
So they don't like to get their hooves taken care of?
Some love it.
Yeah.
Some hate it. Some are somewhere in between, just like us, right? So for Contessa, she was young. She had a lot of mistrust with people that they couldn't necessarily match her strength in her character or personality. And so if they couldn't really match her strength and actually even maybe step into leadership with her, she would not give over those keys lightly, right? They have to be earned.
Yeah.
She felt like her sense of safety was really on her shoulders. So to then pick up a foot, taking away her ability to run fast very quickly. So it's actually removing a layer of safety. So there has to be a certain amount of trust and healthy relationship there for it to happen more easily. And then, just like us, again, if a horse has trauma where they were treated very badly, they had a bad experience with a farrier, maybe the last person was really awful and rough with them. Yeah. Maybe they don't feel safe in their environment. So maybe the farrier thing is fine, but they just don't feel safe, period. Maybe they're in pain, right? So there's lots of reasons they might not want their feet done. And then there's lots of horses who actually enjoy it. Like I have horses, sometimes I'll pull into the farm and they're at the gate and they're like, to me, right? So... it just depends. Just like us, some people feel good about going to the doctor, some don't.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, if you're going to talk about a pedicure, I'll go all day long. So, so let's talk about the Horse Sense North, your business.
Yeah.
What is it, and why did you start it?
So, working as a farrier, I've been doing that for 15 years. I work with thousands of horses.
Okay.
And they've been my most amazing teachers, guides, healers to help me learn more about relationship with myself, relationship with them, and relationship with other people. And as I did that very intensive work with them in that capacity, I kept being drawn back to the land of humans. Yeah. Where my roots in social services, even though I didn't complete that educational journey, it was very much part of me. And I had worked in it preliminarily in an internship. And I already had this passion of like wanting to be of service to people, but I really walked away from that after the school shooting.
Sure.
And leaned heavily into anything else.
Yeah. Well, rightfully so. You had to do, like, you had some stuff that you had to deal with there.
Totally. And so the horses, they really kind of brought me back around to myself and brought me back around to the world of humans. So I wanted to figure out, how can I be a bridge builder between the world of horses and humans so that others can have safe and deeply powerful transformational experiences to really help us be better humans.
Yeah. I love that.
So I went on many deep dives. I got certified with some amazing leaders in the field, went down to work with Linda Kohanov in Arizona, Dr. Rebecca Bailey, and some other amazing mentors, got multiple certifications, and I created Horse Sense North. So we've been doing this work here for about 8.5 years.
Very cool. And what kind of people come to work with you?
We have people come to us from all walks of life.
Yeah.
We have a particular passion and focus on serving those who serve others, specifically first responders, uniformed personnel, public safety personnel, and military. And in part because I am alive today because of them.
Yeah.
And it's really important for me to give back. And I feel very connected to that community in a way. Yeah. So we have a program specifically for public safety personnel that we run multiple times now. I hope to run many, many more. And we also work with other service organizations, service-oriented organizations. And we love doing that kind of work because I think the horses really can help break through some of those barriers in a beautiful way, where they really invite us to hold two things to be true at once, where they really invite us to hold this ability to be powerful and gentle at the same time.
I would agree with that. And thank you for that, because my husband is a first responder, so I can appreciate someone that appreciates those that, are on the front lines and doing the hard things and, putting themselves in danger for others. So I just honor that in you. So I think that's beautiful. What can you give us an example of maybe someone that has gone there to work with you, and like maybe how they were in the beginning and how they ended up after the program, or whatever that looked like for them working with you?
Yeah, for sure. We had a amazing woman come spend time with us. She came through a program that an addictions recovery center has with us, where they send a group every so often. I didn't know anything about her background. I didn't know anything about any of their backgrounds other than their names and a little bit of personal detail to make sure it was a safe horse experience, because it's just a one-day thing.
Okay.
And when she arrived, there was a really unusual response that one of our main horses had. And this horse who we're working with, her name is Grace, and she's really like a matriarch. She's so wise. She's so deeply connected. She has a policing background, if you will.
Okay.
Not where she was actually patrolling, but where she was part of a program in Canada called the RCMP Musical Ride. And to be honest, Deanna, it's really rough. It's not a good place. Like, she came out of that very traumatized.
Oh, wow.
And had someone asked me a decade ago if Grace would become a therapy partner in that kind of way, I would say, like, that's a nice thought, but I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
But Grace had gone through so many cycles of her own healing. Yeah. I mean, she was like the epitome of what resilience can look like.
Beautiful.
And she became super passionate and enthusiastic about wanting to do this work with people.
You're going to make me cry. Okay, keep going.
So that day when this client showed up and Grace was really having these huge responses, it was almost like it was flashback in a way for her. And I was doing my best to kind of settle her and work with her and bring her down without people nearby. It was safe.
Yeah.
But this client stands up and she goes, "It's me. I know she's responding to me." And this client does not know Grace's story. She does not know any of their similarity, but it turns out they have a lot in common. This woman turns out to be a police officer. She turns out to have a very aligned, similar history with Grace.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as she kind of recognized it and had that intuitive knowing, and Grace started to settle, and then they had this beautiful experience. This person came back multiple other times, actually did our program for first responders as well. And she gives them a huge amount, if not most of her credit for how her healing journey is going because of Grace. She has severe PTSD diagnosis, treatment resistant, according to all the medical professionals, except for the horse time. And the way she describes it is that it's like her heart was black and no longer beating. And it's like Grace brought it back to life.
Oh, that's beautiful. Carmen, with that being said, where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more about your programs and just the work that you do in general?
So if anyone wants to check us out, please go to our website, which is horsesensenorth.com. So it's HORSESENSENORTH.com. You can also find us at Horse Sense North, like the @ symbol, Horse Sense North, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm Carmen Theobald. But I don't really care where people connect with me. If
just
connect. Just connect. That's right.
You guys, you guys will put those links in the show notes, and there will be a couple here on the screen if you're watching. So if you really aligned with Carmen's message and are in the Canada area or traveling the Canada area and want to learn more, don't hesitate to reach out. Go follow her on social. And, I love horses. They are, I can attest to the healing powers that they have when you connect with one. And, I highly recommend to check her out. Carmen, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Well, before I answer, I want to sneak in that I also do quite a bit of online work and work with people with like horse sense without the horses necessarily being there.
Sure.
So just plugging that a little bit too.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
So as far as words of wisdom to leave, I think the most important thing for me to share both with myself and with others, listeners and people I work with, is coming back around to this concept that we don't have to sacrifice our strength when we lean into vulnerability, that we really can have both. And in fact, we need both to be whole, to be well. And that's a lot of what healing can mean, is becoming integrated with all those parts at the same time.
1000%. I used to lead with my masculine so much. At this point in my life, I've done all that work, and I feel I lead with my feminine more, but I allow myself to be vulnerable, but I'm still strong. And I think that it's a very beautiful place to be. Like, it's probably the most perfect place that you want to be if you've ever been through any kind of trauma or anything that, is, that's hurt you in any way. Carmen, I've just absolutely adored this conversation. Thank you for sharing your story and the work that you do and your journey. Like, it's pretty cool to hear about how you just decided to make that change and go after it.
Thank you so much, Deanna. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.